This show's always been about America and just old school common sense. It's not about left or right. He called a lid at 10 a.m. today. It's more about right or wrong. It's about cutting through the noise and finding the truth. It's uncomfortable talking about all of this stuff, finding things we have in common, not what divides us. It's about we the people. We do news, we do sports, we do entertainment, and we have a damn good time in the process. All right, folks, it is Monday. I'm Drew Berquist. This is my show. Damn glad to be with you guys. Looking forward to spending some time together today, this week. All sorts of fun stuff that we're going to get into. Hope you had a great weekend. Hope you had a great Father's Day. Fathers out there, wives, mothers. Hope you took care of your man. David Disco. Tom Disco. You guys have a good Father's Day.
Oh, I think Tom is muted on my end. 1 second. Sorry, Tom.
It's okay.
There he is.
Tom, tell me about your Father's Day.
Had a wonderful Father's Day. Got up early, went to the grocery store, went for a nice long run where I listened to an audiobook on conspiracy theories.
No. I didn't know you were into that.
Yeah, watched a lot of sports on TV and had a nice pizza to celebrate.
Ooh, where local pizza place or national chain?
No, it's a local one. It's called Pizza Populis. They specialize in Chicago and Detroit style pizzas.
I was just gonna say I've been craving either one of those lately, and there's not a great spot here who does it. So do better, Jacksonville.
I think Jets does it.
Yeah. But they're like a far delivery, so by the time you get it, it's not even hot anymore. It was a pretty good weekend. How about you? You have a good?
It was good. We're just in the middle of a move, so
It wasn't.
Yeah.
Don't lie.
That was good. Woke up. The girls were very excited to celebrate and everything, and we did. And I had a steak.
Yum.
Good.
Delightful. Well, lots to get to as usual. We're going to do a quick recap of sports. We got some Biden clips. We've got John Fetterman, who we've given some love to lately. Not love. We're still not fans of him, but we've got that. We've got Jonathan Rose, who's going to join us, talk about this new prepper bar, talk about kind of the state of the world. Speaking of the state of the world, NATO has been trying, since January of this year, by the way, not just this week, to distance themselves from the term NATO expansion to the point where they're trying to say on their website that that's not happening. So we'll talk about how that's ridiculous. We'll talk about some other rhetoric, some spicy rhetoric coming out of NATO this week. We've got plenty. To get to, so let's get into it now. And it starts with this. Bryson DeChambeau won the U.S. Open yesterday, if you weren't aware of that, if you were living under a rock, or if you don't like golf and you just don't care. He did. Rory blew it at the end. I wanted Bryson to win, so I'm glad it went the way they did. Rory misses a 4-foot putt. Bogey's 18, because these two are neck and neck. I mean, 6 under, 6 under, 7 under, 7 under. Then they would drop, and then they both go neck and neck the whole thing. And then Rory just chokes Bryson. And it's not that, Bryson's winning and getting a favor here. He earned the crap out of this win. But
yeah, there's nothing more human than watching a pro miss a 4-foot. You're like, I've been there.
Yes.
I've never had that big of stakes be on the line, but I've missed that putt, and it's just like, that's golf, man.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah, that's that old adage, man. Drive for show, putt for dough.
Yeah.
He's putting for dough.
And I mean, literally, probably 9 times out of 10 could have closed his eyes on that one.
Yeah.
And being who Rory is, would have made it. Most of the guys on the tour would have made it with their eyes closed. But rough win. But what's not being talked about, you've maybe seen this. This is footage of DeChambeau. You can see he's midway through. He's just finished 10 and is headed on his way to 11. He's 7 under at this point. Focused, right? It's the U.S. Open. It's a major golf tournament that he goes on to win, as we've just now discussed. But in between holes, look at the greatness, because this was greatness almost. I don't think you can even argue greatness on a much bigger scale than winning a trophy, winning some money, and he won a lot of it. But take a look at this scene.
Holes for DeChambeau, and he's got it back up to 7 under. One clear, McIlroy.
Have you ever seen anything like this in the U.S. Open?
And connecting with everyone out here. This is Swain.
Leading the tournament.
DeChambeau is now long.
You're a real one for that, Bryson.
That's awesome.
Go get yourself another championship, man.
Love it.
And apparently he was doing that all week.
Yeah.
He was in between shots, going up, shaking hands, doing autographs, taking photos.
Yeah.
He was, they said it multiple times from the booth. He's been doing this all week. It's just incredible.
It really is. And that's, I mean, honestly, I mean, it goes without saying. I think we're talking about it. People adore him for that. But that's where you win. That's where you win, man. Be a good person, and people are going to rally around you even more. And Bryson's a stud golfer. There's no two ways about it. But you see that, and that brings that connect. That's the reason people love Scotty too. Scotty's the number one golfer in the world. Sure, he's amazing. But one of the big reasons everyone loves Scotty is not because he's won 5 tournaments in the last little chunk here. It's because he's an absolute stud as a person. And everyone can get behind that. Everyone can resonate with, like, I really like this guy. He's what role models should be. If we're going to find role models in sports, which is a whole nother debate, that's what it should look like. And that was great from Bryson.
And what's funny is you juxtapose that with the NBA, where a lot of the NBA players are openly hostile to their own fans.
Right. Yeah, like
You've
cussing
got
them out.
LeBron and company getting people kicked out of venues. And here, it's just nice to see people who are nice to their fans.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Driver, can we get a segment that Tom gives us a conspiracy theory weekly? We have talked about Tom's conspiracy corner. Here's where we got to be careful. And you can say this is a sellout thing or whatever. We just have to be careful because we get kicked off of platforms for certain stuff. Maybe not on Rumble, but we're trying to actually run a business and a productive one here. So it's tricky, but we have talked about it. And if we do it, then Tom will, of course, have a tinfoil hat that he wears for that segment.
Yeah.
And it'll be outstanding. So, yes, a driver, the answer is probably yes. We just might not go as hard to the hoop as the dark web might.
If we do, we need to have like one of those old school Macintosh computers in front of him that he's working on. Like, check this out.
Lots of overly aggressive, unnecessary typing.
He's got floppy disks. Hang on.
It's too bad you can't see the index cards that I have up on the hotel room wall with yarn pointing to different things.
The poor cleaning ladies are like,
Hey, what's going on?
we respectfully and responsibly feel like we need to report the tenant in room blankety blank.
He's fine.
Yes. Well, you brought up the NBA there, though, Tom. NBA Finals tonight, Game 5. But this weekend was interesting, right? Because Disco and I were talking about this with our pre-show cigar, and you had the Mavs who were down 3-0 and then just curb stomped the piss out of the Celtics. Now, keep in mind the Celtics turned the ball over 13 times, I think, in that game, had shot less than 50% from the field. So it wasn't the Celtics night. The Mavs also played very, very well. But they just run away with that game. You have the Oilers down 3-0 in the Stanley Cup final, and they win 8-1. Like the Panthers had their high school children play in that game.
That's what it felt like.
It was crazy. But it sets up for Game 5 tonight in Boston. The Celtics can win their 18th NBA championship, which would set them atop. So right now, the Celtics and the Lakers both have 17th. Celtics win tonight or any of the next several games. That is their 18th championship. Pretty damn impressive. It'll be interesting to see. Who do you got tonight, Tom?
I got to go with the Celtics, but I also have to put an asterisk next to the Lakers and their amount of championships because, was it 2 or 3 of those were in Minnesota?
Yeah, so. They were. And in Minnesota, we take that math and we multiply it times whatever we want to on any given day because we just want championships and we don't get them a lot. So it's like, the Lakers from Minneapolis, right?
I got to go with Boston. I think they're the stronger team. In the beginning, I know that I said the Mavs were going to take it, in 4, and of course I was wrong. I was basing that on, how well Luka was playing and how much momentum they had going in, and the fact that the Lakers, had more days off in between their series and the finals. But the funny thing to me about this is people like myself, who are oftentimes labeled a conspiracy theorist, I posted a meme on social media that had both the Panthers and the Celtics, and I put the caption on there, all right, tell me that, the professional sports isn't rigged, ha, ha, ha. And the responses I got were incredible. One of my favorite ones, I went back and forth, was a friend of mine who responded and said, well, both teams just want to win at home. And I was like, okay, so that means they're throwing a game. And he was like, they're not really throwing games. They just want to win at home. Well, what do you call that then?
Yeah. Let's give that a term, shall we? What bin would you put that into?
I used to think that it'd be so great to win at home, but I think just winning the finals, where it's home or away, you're winning the finals. It's awesome.
Well, and in the case of in case of either of the teams over the weekend, hockey or basketball, it would have been a sweep. Who doesn't want to just kick the piss out of somebody? You want to win, if you're going to do something, try and dominate and make them feel awful about themselves.
Well, that's where I texted you gentlemen saying I feel like the higher ups at ABC were like, we don't want this going to 4 games.
Look, that you guys are sharing the same.
It's what it felt like.
It does feel that way, especially considering how the Celtics and the Panthers just didn't show up. But we got amazing conversation going on about floppy disks now, which is outstanding. There was also a couple other things in the sports world. Birmingham Stallions beat the San Antonio Brahmas 25-0 in the first ever UFL championship game. Not very highly attended. But it was interesting because you had Wade Phillips, who used to be an NFL coach, who's the coach of the Brahmas. They beat the Stallions, who had this high-flying offense in Week 10, the final week of the season in the UFL, 18-9. Then you think, okay, well maybe they can do it again. Maybe their stifling defense can shut them down, and they didn't. They got routed, 25-0. Birmingham Stallions, the first ever UFL champions. Congratulations to them. Tom, I know you watched that game, right?
I did, and the first half I was extremely bored by that game.
Yeah, and golf won the weekend. The U.S. Open was by far the most golf and College World Series were the most entertaining. Basketball and hockey and the UFL all just kind of disappointing. But
right, but with the UFL, to me, the UFL is gonna develop into a much bigger league. It's not gonna be as big as the NFL, of course, but it's gonna be it's gonna be the NFL version of minor league baseball. It has to be, with the way that we're going with NIL and with college teams, paying players and so forth. There's going to be the need for this developmental league that's going to be a feeder to the NFL. So, even though it was poorly attended and the game wasn't very good, the UFL, I believe, is here to stay because it has to stay, because you have all these athletes who are coming out who may not fit in with college or may not be getting paid what they want to get paid, and this gives them a chance to go somewhere else.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that they'll be able to do it, and you mix the books, if you will, financially and business wise, from the XFL and the USFL. I'm sure they did this merger saying this is more sustainable for the long haul, even if there's lower attendance and lower viewership and this, that. I think the viewership was decent enough, But yeah, I think it has to be there. I mean, freaking high school has NIL now in almost every state. Florida has it now. It's been approved here. I'm telling you, I've said it before. I was fortunate. My family just was blessed with the ability to play sports, and particularly football. We played at the wrong freaking time, because now all these bitches are getting paid, and we just worked our asses off. This was also back when 3-a-days and all of that was not only acceptable but encouraged. If you didn't do it, you weren't winning. Now there's none of that. You can't have that. You can't do that. There's got to be this many water breaks. There's no training camps anymore for high school, and there's no 3-a-days anymore. It's just this. Oh, and you're going to get paid, or you have the chance to get paid.
Well,
wrong time.
You paved the way to make this happen.
You're welcome. You're welcome, America. Ryan Blaney, new. You're a NASCAR guy. Ryan Blaney wins the new race, first ever, the inaugural Iowa Corn 350. He led for 200 laps. That wasn't even really that. It got a little bit tight towards the end with Byron. What's his name coming up?
That's racing. It's 2 hours of complete boredom followed by 6 seconds of chaos. It's just you're sitting there going, man, this is so boring. But at the end, it's all about fuel and tires.
Yeah. I want to 100%. I want to switch and remind me. I want to come back because there is another Caitlin Clark story. But I want to skip ahead because we've got a couple stories and we got to get to our guest here in a little bit as well. So NATO has been saying that they're not on the offensive, that they're not expanding, which is hilarious. Literally, their website says this. I'm just going to read it if you'll indulge me here. The wording, and then we'll get to that next one there, Disco. The wording, NATO expansion is already part of the myth. NATO did not hunt for new members or want to expand eastward. NATO respects every nation's right to choose its own path. NATO membership is a decision for NATO allies and those countries who wish to join alone. So they're trying to distance themselves for it. And we all know that's hilarious and not true because we've talked about it quite frequently on this show. But Zero Hedge did a great job. I rarely print out articles, but I did so just because this hits on some points that we've got as it pertains to this particular topic. And, Tom, you say it a lot in here, too. You go all the way back to 75, whatever starting point you want. It could be 75 Helsinki Accords. It could be later. You go back to it. And while there was not supposed to be any NATO expansion, it's been the opposite. That's all we've seen ever since.
Yeah, that's all we've seen. And whenever the globalists get involved with whatever they're doing, they tell you immediately what they're doing. We're going to expand NATO. The vaccine, it will prevent the spread of COVID. You won't get COVID if you take the vaccine. No matter what the narrative is, they always say exactly what they mean first. And when people realize that they're full of crap, then they try to repackage it and say, oh, we're not actually doing that, or vaccine doesn't really mean vaccine, or whatever the case may be. Now I just saw a CNN report where the CNN reporter was trying to say that we live in a democracy and a representative republic is just a right-wing talking point. They're trying to make a representative government is a conspiracy theory, which is insane. But getting back to NATO, everybody knows that this is a mistake of NATO expansion because it's going to lead to World War III, because what they're doing is they're backing Russia into a corner. And eventually, if you keep backing somebody into a corner, they're going to fight back, and they're going to fight back viciously. And that's where we find ourselves now.
Well, yes, absolutely. And it's interesting that you say that because, again, you go back to Helsinki and then you work your way all the way through. In 94, you had the U.S. begin, and this is, you can go read this Zero Hedge article because it's a lot of the things we talked about, and it's just kind of packaged into a nice article. But the U.S. began to pursue NATO expansion under the slogan, Europe whole and free. Then you had Clinton, you fast forward to, same year actually, 94, advocated as an alternative to NATO expansion, instead became some plans that he rolled out saying this is not expansion, it's an alternative to expansion, but basically rolled out and then became expansion, ipso facto. And then you jump ahead to what you were just talking about there. And you had as recent, there was, NATO invaded Yugoslavia, the occupation of Kosovo, all that kind of stuff, the U.S. leaving the AMB treaty in 2001. There's tons of stuff. But then you go to 2008. And you had Ambassador, at the time, Ambassador William Burns. Recognize that name? You had Ambassador William Burns saying Ukrainian entry into NATO is the brightest of all red lines for Russian elite, not just Putin. I have yet to find anyone who views Ukraine and NATO as anything other than a direct challenge to Russian interests. Today's Russia will respond. That's 2008. Staying in 2008, the British ambassador said it was stupid on every level, talking about suggesting it. If you want to start a war with Russia, that's the best way of doing it. Fiona Hill made similar warnings. Angela Merkel said Russia would view this as a declaration of war, which they have been very consistent on, not just across the board, but specifically as it pertains to Ukraine. And then obviously everything that happened in 2014. You have all that stuff happening, and I don't see how some of those same people now are, by the way, okay with it and or advocating for it. I don't see how they can understand the state of the world, understand what they said back then. And I get it. These people are political talking figures. They just go where the money tells them to go and where their masters tell them to go. But you've had that situation for a long time where people are saying what we've been saying now, hey, don't do this because you're going to push things too far. You're going to push things too far, and no one's going to like the result of this. The ramifications are massive. And here we are, fast forward to 2024, and really the last 2 years, and everyone's calling for everyone join. It's like our freaking southern border. Everyone come on in. We're going to send you wherever you want. We're going to treat you better than our veterans. We're going to treat you better than our own citizens. They're inviting everyone in and saying, let's get Ukraine involved, whether it's NATO now, and they're saying not now, but we want to get you involved. You're telling Putin what you're going to do, and Putin, by the way, sees what we're doing in terms of the war there. They know that this is not happening without the U.S. behind it. We're very, very involved in it. We've now approved the use of U.S. weapons inside of Russia, even though we had already used U.S. weapons inside of Russia. Now we're openly and overtly saying this is what we're doing. And it's just been this steady expansion forward. And not only has it been this steady expansion forward, but you fast forward to this week and you had Jens Stoltenberg, Mario Nafal, who's one of Elon's boys over on Twitter, who reports a lot of stuff. But he put out this tweet, and you can find it elsewhere as well, that Jens Stoltenberg said they needed to NATO, to take their weapons out of storage and place them on standby as they faced increased threats from Russia and China. He said, quote, a world where Russia, China, and North Korea have nuclear weapons and NATO does not is a more dangerous world. It goes on from here, but you get the point. So not only is expansion happening, NATO's trying to say we're not expanding, but then you have the bro who's in charge of NATO being like, yeah, we should probably do a show of force and whip those nuclear weapons out. Again, no de-escalation at any point during this Russia-Ukraine war or any time before that.
No, and everybody, Jan Stoltenberg is acting like the leader of a frat that, has had a week-long bender, and everybody is totally drunk, and they're making horrible decisions. And instead of saying, okay, let's sober up for a second, let's take a couple of days off, we should probably get back to studying and going to class, he's saying, oh, hell no, bring in another keg. If we're going to do this, let's do this. And, let's just keep firing them down. And it's only going to lead to more and more bad decisions, because ultimately, the police are going to show up at your frat house, and there's going to be a huge fight because everybody's drunk and they've pushed for a response, and that's what we're seeing with NATO. Yeah,
a very interesting analogy, but yes, absolutely. By the way, there was an amazing, which we didn't have time to get to today, and we're not going to. I can just already tell from the pacing of the show today. There was an amazing fight on a golf course, which looked like some frat boys. Just it was next level. But lots of concerns with this. It is just, it is a perpetual mess that we're in right now. And the ripple effects are huge, such as last week, U.S. military vessels tracking Russian military vessels right off the coast of Florida, just 66 miles that way, out in the ocean, on their way to Cuba in a flex and a show of force by Russia. Things expanding. So the world's not going great. But I want to talk about this because it leads to a lot of other things, right? It's not just sending taxpayer dollars, which is a huge issue. It's not just sending our sons and daughters to fight in a war over there. And by the way, again, they're there now. I've had friends who have been there for 2 years on this particular conflict. You just don't know about all of them. But the ripple effects are huge. So let's talk about this. Let's bring in one of our guests and good friends, CEO of Genesis Gold Group, Jonathan Rose. Jonathan, it's good to have you. Oh, we've got Jonathan muted.
I think it might be on his end.
Oh.
We're just getting set up over here. I'm sorry about that, Drew.
Oh, you're fine. Take your time. We'll come to you. You flag when we're ready.
Okay.
So we'll bring in Jonathan in a second, but you look at this, and one of the issues is you like, let's look to COVID, right? Let's go back. Everyone remember COVID? Wasn't that so fun? It was the best.
It was the best time in human history.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times.
In a way, it was, because it showed us so much. But you see the you see how people respond, right? You see how supply chains, which again, Joe Biden just figured out what that was. I have to bring it up every time we bring up supply chains because it's so fascinating that he always makes those remarks about it. But you see how it affects supply chains. You see how it affects all of these things. And it's a big deal. It's a massive deal on the ripple effect. It's not just the typical war stuff. It's, hey, how are you going to get goods? What's this going to do to the price of gas? What's this going to do to the price of food? What's this going to do to the economy and the stock market and the state of your 401k or your IRA or your, you name it, the state of all that, right? I mean, the ripple effect is just huge. It's
gigantic, especially with BRICS, because for the longest time, our money, the dollar, was based on gold. And then that stopped in 72. And then our money became based on the petrodollar. And now or backed by the petrodollar. Now that we've got Saudi Arabia leaving that, my question is, what's backing the dollar at this point?
Yeah, that's a good question. Let's bring in someone who's probably got a better answer on all of this. CEO of Genesis Gold Group, Jonathan Rose, is with us now, I think. Disco? Yes, indeed. There he is. Hey, Jonathan, thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Drew. I appreciate being on here. It's a pleasure to be here and hopefully give you guys some of my insight.
Yes, absolutely. Well, look, we need your insight. I mean, you're familiar with our show. You can tell that there's plenty of areas where we're lacking. We have a great time, but we need people like you. I mean, Tom's talking about this, the impact on the dollar. There's the concern of what happens, obviously to just the economy and people's savings and all of that writ large. And I want to talk to you about a couple things because I want to talk about the prepper bar as well. But in terms of the economic impact of this course that we're charting for some reason, which is unbeknownst to me, it just makes no sense. But the DC Warhawks want war, so we're going down this path. What does that do for the U.S. dollar?
Well, the U.S. dollar right now, Drew, is under a lot of stress. So, something I often talk about is, forget what's happening. Well, we can't forget what's happening in the Middle East and Russia and Ukraine, but we just have to look first and foremost at the debt that the U.S. dollar has accumulated. So $34 trillion in debt our great nation is in and counting. And to put that into a little bit more perspective, every 90 days, we're accumulating $1 trillion in debt. And that's just the interest on the debt that we owe. And to put that into a little bit more context, that $1 trillion every 90 days is also about our U.S. national defense budget. So we're spending our U.S. national defense budget every single month. Debt does matter, okay? When we kind of look at debt, and then we even look at things like the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell came out and said, hey, folks, guess what? We're going to have some more regional banks collapse later in this year, which is very alarming because, last year we had Silicon Valley Bank, we had First Republic, and when those banks collapsed, that led to fear. Fear led to sell-offs in the market. Obviously, for people like us who are in the precious metals business, it was like a stampede of elephants trying to squeeze through a small door because everyone wanted gold and silver.
Right.
But, we have some serious issues. And I often say, we don't have a crystal ball. Nobody has. but we have a pretty good roadmap. And we see this roadmap with things like, bank failures and bad government debt. And then you throw in there central bank digital currencies. And then what you were just talking about, BRIC nations, right, where our current administration left a massive void in the Middle East. These other great countries, whether it be oil-producing countries or super-powered nuclear countries, they banded together. They're creating a new currency. They want to back it by physical gold. Where does that leave the U.S. dollar? Saudi Arabia didn't renegotiate, or I should say America let that one go and didn't renegotiate their 30-year contract with Saudi Arabia, where they can now settle other goods and oils away from U.S. dollars. And sometimes people look at this and it's kind of like goes over their head. But the bottom line is, if you think that the market is going to continue to go up, then, you don't need an asset like gold in your portfolio. If you're kind of a realist and your feet are planted firmly on the floor, then you need to understand that when you look out the window, if it's raining, it's thunder, it's hail, before you leave the house, you grab that umbrella and you hold it over your head. That's exactly what gold is for your financial portfolio. It's a flight to safety and security for those rainy days. Now, obviously, with assets like gold and silver, you want to be proactive when you purchase gold and silver. You don't want to be reactive. And I used to work on the London Metal Exchange, the futures markets, and people would often say to me, Jonathan, what's the safest way to invest in gold? And it's the answer I give every single time. I've never, moved away from this answer. It's to physically hold on to it. You want the assets in your hand. So whether you're putting it in a retirement account, Drew, like an IRA or 401k, or whether we're shipping physical gold and silver directly to people's doorsteps and they keep it somewhere safe, like a safety deposit box, that is the safest way to own gold. Yes, there are other ways, gold electronic traded funds, but you don't actually own the gold. You own a piece of paper tied to the market. Then there's gold mining stocks. Again, you don't own the gold. You're really investing in who's the management team, who's the CEO of that company. And if they don't mine any gold, Drew, you don't make any money. So the safest way to get exposure to gold is to physically hold onto the asset, either in a retirement account or just physically hold it in your hand. If you don't hold it, you don't own it. And that's something very important people need to understand. But as you mentioned, where do we go from here? The US dollar is definitely taking a beating. People are, turning on the news and reading things like Russian warships are parked off the coast of Cuba, Russian submarines are parked, off continents. In my office, I heard heavy helicopters just now. I looked up. There were 5 Osprey helicopters heading somewhere. I've never seen military aircrafts over my building before, but this is something we've begun to see. So I think there's definitely a shift happening. People are concerned about international conflicts, which rightly so you should be in this day and age. And then when you look at this from an economic standpoint of where the US dollar is going, it's really important to be proactive and not reactive. So I always tell people you don't buy the flood insurance after the banks burst, you buy it before. So again, this is all about getting an education, getting an understanding, and understand the important parts of why you need to take action now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, so I've been talking a lot about the excitement, and it's legit and super true. Since we partner with you guys, and we partner with you guys for a very specific reason, because of the values that we share, because of your view of the country, your view of the world, all of that, and just how different you are. I've worked with some different gold groups in the past. For people watching or listening now, when they come to you, and the links in the chat and the links in the description, go to goldwithdrew.com. But when they come to Genesis Gold Group, a lot of people out there are pushing the IRA. You're just talking about having, and obviously you give options, but you're talking about having it physically in your possession. Walk people through what that looks like when they go to goldwithdrew.com, they fill out the form. What does that look like? Because this is new to a lot of people, and I get questions a lot like, hey, Drew, do you trust these guys? Or do you think this makes sense now? Which is always a lot of pressure for me, but you can explain it better. So what does that process look like?
I think first and foremost, one question I'll add in with that is what makes us different as well. Because like you said, you've worked with many other gold companies. So we don't push anything on anybody. What we believe in is really an education And an informed investor is a better investor. And when you even look at these financial advisors, because we work with financial advisors as well, they'll kind of throw you into these products. And a lot of times people don't even understand what they're in. They understand the big brokerage name behind them on the wall, and that's what they're really purchasing. But today, what we kind of like to focus on is helping people understand what they've got. So if we say, what's inside your IRA, 9 times out of 10 people will say to us, Drew, well, there's some stock, there's some bonds in there, some equities, and great, what type of stocks and bonds and indices are you in? And that's kind of the light bulb moment where they have, I don't know. And we don't say this to kind of make anybody feel embarrassed. It's kind of just time to shine a light on what they have so they can understand how those asset classes will be affected if we go into a very sharp, deep economic downturn like a lot of these top economists are predicting. And then really it's just an understanding so people can understand how does this process work? I have an IRA, I roll it over from point A to point B, it's still tax deferred, the money is still with you, the money then goes to a highly specialized trust company. And then at that point, the fun begins because we have metals directors here that will sit down with you and start talking to you about gold, silver, platinum, palladium, asset allocation, different types of product. Is it coins? Is it bars? Is it a short-term hold? Is it a long-term hold? So really the main thing here and how we differentiate ourselves is there's no free silver gimmicks where clients end up paying for these anyway because of big premiums. It's really people feeling comfortable with who we are and working with a group of people that's really very knowledgeable. So just a quick backstory. We have about 35, 36 employees here at Genesis Gold Group. And one of the main things here is when it comes to talking about money, there's only about 5 people that are allowed to help people move IRAs over because this is a big decision. And you got to make sure that you're working with people with the correct credentials, have been doing this for decades, and that they're taking their time with you. It's a big decision in life. Buying your house is a big decision. You're finding your life partner, Drew, right? Big decision. Or it should be at least.
Right.
Your IRA and 401k, you've been working your whole life for this retirement account. This shouldn't just be a 5-minute phone call with some gold company you found somewhere and you just roll it over. You got to make sure that you're making the right decisions with the right people because people like to get into gold, but they forget questions like, well, how easy can I liquidate this? How quickly can I turn this back into cash? Maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I think that we are definitely the best at what we do because people kind of forget these questions. So I kind of like to help slow things down for people to get an education, learn how easy it is to roll these IRAs and 401ks over, keeping it tax-free, penalty-free, and also understand that the products they're purchasing, what they have, and then when emergencies do arise, how easy is it to liquidate this and transfer it back into cash, which we do extremely effectively.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and again, I mean, that I was close to being done with gold groups altogether, just because some of the folks in the industry. I'm not going to say names, but they're rough to work with on this side, and then moreover, they're rough to work with for people in my audience and other audiences, that we produce content for, folks on RVM News, folks outside of RVM News who push gold. And they just badger people to death, and they push what works for them. So I just was done. I was like, I'm done. And then I came across you guys when we were on a break. Actually, we were finishing up another thing, but came across, and it just is so different, and it's so refreshing. It's the education piece, the no gimmick piece. All the things that you guys talk about, you actually do, too. It's not just talk about. Everyone else is like, we're going to give you this, and we're going to give you a pony, and we're going to give you all these things. I never got a pony, and all I got was just people who were just super, super pressuring in terms of all the discussion. So I love that you do that. I love just kind of how you guys have done everything. And obviously, we partner with you guys and do a ton of stuff with you, but we only do because of how you take the approach and how you guys are so deliberate and thoughtful in your approach and taking care of people. It's a novel concept because again, I don't want to say too much about how you guys do things, and I don't know everything on the back end by any stretch, but you guys could probably do better for yourselves if you took the approach of the rest of the gold industry and you choose to do the right thing, and that's going to pay off in spades. Because people respect and appreciate people who treat people the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we have a what we call a moral compass. Maybe some people, leave that at home these days, but, I know what's right and what's wrong. Right. Like I mentioned, moving an IRA, this isn't small money, Drew. People have 70,000, a couple $100,000, $1 million plus in there. They got to make sure they're working with the right people and people who are actually looking out for the smaller guy, right? The smaller investor, the blue collar worker, as well as the larger folks out there who trade, very successfully. So, customer service is key. Working with the right company is key, and I think that's really what has led to our success, especially when people look at us a little bit deeper and further, and they look at our values and what we believe in. We are an American first company, and that means a lot to us. So we want to make sure that whoever we're working with, like yourselves and your organization, that we're putting our best foot forward and we can sincerely help them, and that's a very genuine part of our business philosophies, to making sure they have the right information. And if we can't help them, we sure will definitely guide them in other places where we feel with people who can.
I love it. Just being good humans. What a novel concept. And you're right. So many people do leave without that moral compass. It's like they've found like a Loctite safe, and that thing is tucked way in there. I love that. So go to Gold with Drew, guys. Goldwithdrew.com. That's going to get you in touch with folks at Genesis Gold Group. You're going to talk to Jonathan and his team, who are going to set you on the right path. I hope that's been established, and we'll definitely have Jonathan back to talk about other stuff. But before Jonathan goes today, I want to take a little bit of I don't know if we're going to call it a sidestep or what we're going to call it, but there's something awesome that we started talking about at the end of last week, Jonathan, that I think you can also lend a little bit more to than I possibly could, and that is this new prepper bar that is so freaking cool. I remember hearing conversations about it coming out and being like, yes, this is awesome. It is game changing. It's disruptive. It's all those things, and it in fact is. And you guys have this, and it's different than what we just talked about in a number of respects. But it's important too, and particularly for people who are really concerned about the state of the world, really concerned about the state of our country, their community, and where things are going should the proverbial you-know-what hit the fan. So Tell us about this prepper bar, because I'm being dead serious. I don't really screw around with my old background. I just kind of tell things as it is. I think this is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, I got to agree with you there. So, and I'm going to hold up couple product here, because this is pretty cool. First of all, this is a kilo of gold. And I probably take it for granted how heavy it is, because I just hold these things up all the time. But
well, you look like you're fit.
Yeah, this is like a product we sell a lot in IRAs, the kilo of gold. But over the years, people have often said to us, Jonathan, I have this kilo of gold, but I want something usable, spendable, tradable. It's not like I've got a hacksaw in my back pocket and can cut it up into 5 little pieces. Do you have anything the spendable, tradable, portable? And really it gave birth to, I'm going to hold it up here. It is a really cool product. Into this, we call it the prepper bar. And what you're noticing about this really cool bar, and look how thin it is, guys. This is how thin it is. But it's a divisible bar. So if you're wondering what all these lines are here, these are breakable segments of 20th of an ounce, quarter of an ounce, and a tenth of an ounce. So what it enables you to do is like a chocolate bar. I'm not going to break this one, but you can literally snap it. You can take these pieces apart. I keep this in my wallet. So here's my wallet. I call it wealth in your wallet, and I carry it with me. It can come in gold. It can come in silver. And I would like to think I'm that smart to come up with this idea, because people say to me, well, that's genius. But it's really, the English accent has a lot of people fooled. People think we're much smarter than we are. This really comes from our clients asking us for a product like this. And made in the USA. It's the only divisible bar that's made in the USA. And it's also IRA approved. So it really is cool. Comes in gold, comes in silver. They can go online and purchase these. And I just think it's like innovation meet like a legacy in terms of gold's history and what gold provides. You now have a utility play with this. So that's what makes this so cool is that it has a utility to it, and that's what makes this really a disruptive game changer in the precious metals market.
100%. Well, it's the utilities there. It's easy to get. It's innovative. No one else has it, at least the way that you guys have done it, being perforated, being made in the U.S. And you can literally just go to prepperbarnow.com, which is in the chat and in the description as well, and get it. It's a different process than what we were talking about before. There's, hey, here's how I protect my IRA and my savings and my 401k. And then there's, hey, I'm concerned about, which you guys had a lot of, requests and concerns about this because of the state of the world. What happens if we need to do this? Because, and I'm glad you held up that other, the regular gold bar, because as you referenced, you can't just take that out and break that on the spot. Like, that's not happening. This thing goes in your wallet or in your safe, however you do it. Maybe you don't carry it around your wallet. If you're someone who loses your wallet and leaves your sunglasses everywhere, then maybe you're a keep it in the safe person. But it's something that's portable, and the utilities there where when the shit hits the fan, you can say, okay, I have something that can scratch this itch, and I can trade or I can buy with something. And I hope that we never go there, obviously. But you got to be prepared, right? We tell people food, water, all of those things. We tell people to have resources and means. And that's why I'm so excited about this, is because it literally is so unique and so cool.
Yeah, break it, trade it, use it or not, like you mentioned, and, put it into an IRA and then take possession of your metals in your IRA in the form of prepper bars. So, prepperbarnow.com. People can go online. They can purchase it in silver. Gold is out of stock, but will be available again in the next couple of weeks. And, it's just, I just find it such a cool product. It's just, I gave one of my children at school. They went to he's only 11. He went to his friend's birthday party, and I included one in the card. And I got a call from their parents, and like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. They're preppers, so I knew that they would appreciate it. He thought it was a silk chocolate bar, but luckily his parents corrected him pretty quickly. But it is very unique, and made in America, I think, is all the difference with a product like this too.
100%. Well, I can tell you, the people who are preppers and the people in this audience and the people that just are going to resonate with this product love that fact that it's made in America. Love what you guys are doing, Jonathan. I've taken a lot of your time, but I'm so grateful for you coming by. Thank you so much for walking us through all of this, explaining that. Thank you for having the ability and the desire to listen to your customers, make a kick-ass product in the Prepper Bar, and just continue to rock it. We'll definitely have you back because, as it turns out, the world's not going in such a great direction. So there's going to be plenty to talk about. But we appreciate it. Thank you so much for giving us some of your time, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you, Drew. God bless. Appreciate your time, too.
You too.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, guys, check that out, prepperbarnow.com. The link is in the chat. It's in the show description. So if you're catching this later on the podcast, you're driving, all of that, check it out. You can also go to goldwithdrew.com, goldwithdrew.com. Sorry, I'm losing my track of my thoughts here. And discuss moving IRAs, 401ks. Any questions you have, even if you're not sure, guys, if you're going to do it, the best way is just to have a discussion. And with other places, you're going to get pressured and just beat over the head with a hammer to buy certain products. That's not the case with Genesis Gold Group. They're going to set you up and say, okay, walk me through what you got now. Walk me through what your goals are. Let's talk about it and see if there's some solutions. And there's going to be, newsflash. But do that, goldwithdrew.com, and then prepperbarnow.com, separate site for the Prepper Bar. And the cool thing about that is there's not any exchange with people. If you're looking to not have that, then just go get a Prepper Bar. Go to prepperbarnow.com and get one of those. It's great to have Jonathan on. We'll look forward to having him back on. Handsome devil, that one right there. Let's move on, and I want to circle back real quick. Chaos was talking about it. Let's go back before that. You can keep that in preview disco. But I want to go back to something totally unrelated. We've gone sports to NATO to the economy, and now we're going back to Caitlin Clark, who, if you're talking economy, it kind of makes sense because she's lifted the economy surrounding women's sports.
I've seen more ads for the WNBA since she's been in than I've ever. Like, it's everywhere now.
It's everywhere. I saw. Was it? What's the Hot Ones? Is that the show?
Yeah.
Shane Gillis was on there recently, and they asked him, and I don't know if his response was serious or not, because I think he was dying a little bit inside from the sauce he had. They're like, "Are you getting into all this WNBA stuff?" He's like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I'm all about it."
Well, what I love is, because we have different shows on during the day, but even like Pat McAfee, they were talking about the WNBA. And of course, they always talk sports, but they're talking about it. And he's like, there was that one game where they had to, I think it was Indiana. I think they had to move it to another arena where they had more seats and they sold it out. And he's like, why aren't they doing all the games over there? And I just wanted to call in and be like, because no one was showing up. That's why. They're like, they're only in a 4,000 seat arena. Like, why aren't they in the bigger ones? No one was showing up. No one cared until now.
Yeah. It's true. Well, there was more drama over the weekend. And you know what?
So you say.
I don't think you're going to be surprised to hear that it had to do with the Chicago Sky, Angel Reese, and Caitlin Clark, America's favorite or least favorite person, depending.
I don't have an asset for this, right?
No, there's no.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Don't.
It's like,
but so Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark is driving. Angel Reese comes over to block the ball, smacks her in the head, intentional, unintentional, whatever. She gets called. She gets a flagrant 1 foul, and it was the right call. It was a foul. The problem is with this conversation now, and I think it's an interesting thing, and again, I apologize. We've been kind of all over the place today, and that's just how we're going to do it, and it's called This Is My Show, so just deal with it. But is this leads to what's happening now, and both of them talked about it after the game. Angel Reese was kind of a jerk about it, but blew it off. Caitlin was more classy about it, but also blew it off just like as a basketball play. And it really was. So I'm kind of was it aggressive? Yes. Was it a foul? Yes. Was it also called a foul? Yes. It was correctly called a foul. But the problem that we're seeing now is that, okay, the WNBA is getting this attention. But every time something happens with Caitlin, and particularly when it involves someone from the Chicago Sky, namely Angel Reese, or potentially her teammate Kennedy Carter, or as we call it around here, Kennedy. It expands beyond into a race conversation, right? I mean, that's what happens. Bam! Like something happens. Did you see that call? Was that girl white or black? Like, I mean, it just instantly goes there. And I think it's going to be a long season, and it's going to be a long career because Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark aren't going anywhere. But it goes right there right away, right, Tom? I mean, that's.
Yeah, it does. Well, we've seen this narrative now within the media. The media is driving this and saying that Caitlin Clark's fans are a bunch of racists, and trying to polarize. It's almost like what they're trying to do is trying to keep people who aren't in a protected class going to these games or having any opinion on like following the game or becoming interested in it. It's like this deliberate wall that's going up where it's like, oh, if you're new to women's basketball and you like Caitlin Clark, then you're a white supremacist. And it's like, oh my God, we've come to this now. But it isn't surprising because we're talking about a league that is at the forefront of the grievance industrial complex. It's not only race, but it's also sexual orientation. And the fact that they've been around for as long as they've had, they never sold out, they barely have a fan base, and they become the whole league for the longest time is extremely bitter and jealous. Well, they're jealous now. They're even more jealous and envious of what Caitlin Clark is doing by expanding the fan base of the WNBA. This is like totally counterintuitive to any sort of business. If you're running a business that wasn't profitable for 27 years, then all of a sudden you have a new product that you can put in front of the public that's going to broaden your fan base and try to like make some sort of revenue stream happen, you'd be all for it. But in this case, since it's the WNBA has been a charity league. It's been the pet project of every NBA commissioner because the money from the NBA goes to finance it, and they take it as a loss. Right. Even this year with Caitlin Clark being in the league, they're going to suffer even more of a loss this year than they have in previous years because all the teams are flying privately now.
Right.
So they went from what was a $10 million loss every, pretty much the average, to a $20 million loss just because the implementation of private travel. Right. So this whole narrative that's being constructed is just it's counterintuitive to anybody who has any kind of a business background or wants to see a fan base grow, to deliberately say, you know what, these people here who are now new to our league, you're not welcome, and right. that's what this is all building into.
No, I think so too. You're
gonna and also you got I had to look this up because I know that is it this year? No, next year the WNBA is having an expansion. One team's coming on, and then the next year there's going to be another one. The last expansion was in 2008. So now, we're starting to get more, there's more credibility coming. There's more eyes on us. Hey, let's expand the league. Here we go. Let's do it because now people are watching us.
And the NBA owners are like, do we have to? Because that's coming from our pocket.
Well, the NBA is also expanding too. I think Las Vegas is on the top. That's not official yet, but they're saying expanding. It's a word, expansioning. Look it up.
Well, you know what no one's talking about is there's going to be drama, and the problem is I see this as there's drama, which the drama is this is kind of the any press is good press thing right now. The WNBA's never gotten any press. No one's ever cared about it before. Right now they do. But the problem is people eventually are going to get tired of some of the storylines that come with this particular bit, because it just is like, okay, this is dumb, and some of it's legit. It could be this is dumb because Angel Reese or this player or that player is acting like a thug, and I'm not saying she was in this particular instance, because there's a bitter rivalry between these two that dates back to college, so there's normal sports aggression there, but at some point people are going to get sick of this, and then it's going to the WNBA, who's trickling up, although still super negative in terms of the fiscal picture surrounding it, is going to go back to where it was. So they do a fine line there. But here's one story that no one's talking about in the WNBA.
Are you standing now?
I'm going back to standing. The Fever are 5-10.
All right,
5-10, folks, creeping out of the bottom. 2 in a row. Won 2 in a row. They've won 4 out of the last 6. Look at that. They're coming together, playing as a team, looking a little bit better. I mean, they got a long way to go, but Dude,
I watched the game on Sunday, and I was impressed. I hadn't seen her before. I can't remember her first name, but her last name is Smith, and she was the center. And what I noticed about the Fever when they were playing the Sky is they had a lot more ball movement in their game. Because in the first couple of games, it was like they kept trying to feed it over to Caitlin Clark to either drive to the hoop or put up a 3 or whatever. But I see them using Caitlin Clark more as a distraction, because she draws so many people toward her. It is totally opening up the floor. Yeah. The Fever have been able to spread out a lot more on offense, and you see Clark feeding different people on the team, and especially Smith, because Smith will come, set a pick and then roll, like we're taught from the time that we first start playing basketball. And Clark is feeding her, going to the hoop, and then I'm so bad with names. There's another female on the team who was killing it with 3-pointers yesterday, and it was the same thing. If there was nothing inside, they would feed it outside because this girl was left all by herself.
Well, that's the thing. Is Caitlin's a guard. She does a remarkable job of distributing the ball, and you're right. I mean, all the focus is on her, and it has to be because she's an absolute stud. But if the focus is on her, then that opens up lots of opportunities. So it's been interesting to see the conversation not going anywhere. But let's move on from sports for now, and let's hit the grill, shall we? Who grilled yesterday? I grilled. I did some pork tenderloin.
I grilled on Saturday.
Saturday,
Yeah.
Okay. Tom's in a hotel, so it's hard for him to grill right now. But Chuck Schumer tried to pretend. These are my favorite guys. These are my favorite and we'll see it with the grill a lot. I'm throwing pens. We'll see it with the grill a lot. Democrats try, and politicians in general. It's not just Democrats, really just politicians, but particularly Democrat politicians try to pretend they're one of us. They're not. And they go out to the grill and then they just fail like Chuck Schumer did this weekend. He eventually deleted this tweet. Check out this. Let me know if this looks right to you. We've got Chucky Boy there. And we've got the burger very uncooked. The cheese already on.
The brownest Chuck you've ever seen.
Yeah. Maybe, maybe it's been on a couple minutes and that's the light brown from that. We'll give
I doubt that. I doubt that.
Very possibly could just be rotten meat. But he's got some hot dogs on there. Again, I'm a brat guy, but whatever, to each his own. And then we've got these and captured the Democrat Party perfectly explained in pictures, which is a great caption. But man, I mean, what a better picture of just how out of touch they are. Like, here I am out here on the grill.
You wanted cheese on that burger, right?
I'd be surprised if that sumbitch was even lit.
You can see the flame there on the right side.
Right, okay.
Yeah, just a little.
Or is that, if you look in the picture on the right, is that meat stuck to it?
Yeah, there's no smoke. There's nothing coming up from it. And if you zoom in on the hot dogs, look how perfect each of those hot dogs is split. It's almost like they're fake. There's no smoke from the grill. There's no nothing. And back to what you were saying originally about the cheese, who puts the cheese on first so you can flip it over onto the rack of the grill?
That's the last minute or two, depending on how hot you've got the thing.
Maybe.
Just absolutely remarkable. Also worth noting there, because it matters to me, there's a cord management issue. You've got some cables going up the side of his house, if that's even his house.
Where at?
And I'd like to see that get covered up.
No, that's
the door and the window.
Oh yeah. I see that. Yeah, it's like they're like two fiber cables.
And I know this is a little thing, and you can say, oh, he just did it for the photo. But having his glasses on the cutting board, that's just a weird sort of placement for somebody who always wears their glasses on the bridge of their nose.
Yes, which also I hate to the point where I have to watch it because my son, I've got 3 girls and a son. My son's the oldest, and his eyes. I mean, he's like, what's the dude in Hot Shots? Walleye. They're not great. But he's got contacts. I mean, he's fine. But he's got contacts, but he'll have glasses. But they fall down onto the nose every once in a while. Oh my gosh! Like, you push those.
Push them up.
Push them up right now. Like what? And he's not trying. And of course, I'm always joking, and I'm mostly kind.
Maybe he just does it now, just to.
He just does to get under my skin. Oh, this is gonna piss Daddy off. I gotta do this. Anyways, yeah. Weird side story on that. Let's talk about John Fetterman for a second. So he's ruling over this committee, and let's give the guy. And we don't have to play this whole clip. It's done pretty early. I'll pull us out of it.
Roger.
The guy's had some minor wins as of late, right? He's still a hardcore Democrat. There's no two ways about it. We're not saying we would vote for him. I still think the fact that he is serving in any capacity is an atrocity, is dangerous, is laughable for our country, all those things. But he's pushed back against his handlers who let him get in there. But he's leading this thing, and he had a very Joe Biden-like moment. Take a listen.
Under the previous order, the Senate stands adjourned until 3 p.m. on Monday. Bang, gavel.
I am angry.
I love that he at least laughed about it. Like, I'm an idiot. I just read the...
Bang gavel.
Bang gavel. Pretty remarkable. That's our government, folks.
Yeah, well, it's like Ron Burgundy. You can't put anything in the prompter.
You can't put it in there. He'll do it. Let's so today's question of the day is a video question of the day. Who's ready for it?
Me.
Yeah, it's that one. Ring the bell. Let's do it. So lots of debates online. You got Harry Sisson, whatever, the young gay kid, and David Hogg weighing in on this on the other side. You've got
He's still alive. He was really thin last time we saw him.
He's not well.
Okay.
He's not well. I mean, it's going to catch up at some point. But you've got a lot of debate over this. So there's this fundraiser, right? Hopefully you were watching sports or just hanging out with your family last night. But there was a fundraiser this weekend. There was the Tonys going on, all this crap. And
did you watch the Tonys?
I did not. If you ever see me watching the Tonys, you can take any object here and you can put it where the sun don't shine. Just take it and I'll let you. I will.
All right, duly noted.
Yeah, I'll get on one of those pregnancy tables. Oh, that's too much. But
I've watched the Tonys before.
The before is different. The past is the past, bro. I mean, that's fine. But this fundraiser's happening, and Barack's on stage with Joe, and they're supposed to leave. And Barack gets it because, like Barack or don't like Barack can work a room. The dude knows how to work a room. He's evil and wants to destroy our country.
Very charismatic.
But he's very charismatic. So the question is was this just a normal moment, or did Joe Biden freeze here? Because you'll see Barack has to essentially grab him by the hand and lead him off the stage. Like at one point he's waving like, and then it's just
reboot.
Yeah. So take a look. The question is, did Joe Biden freeze or not? All right, a clap. I mean, it's really vigorous right there. And then,
Come on.
So think about it. Send your responses in. While you do, let me just tell you, folks, America's food supply is under attack. There's all sorts of stuff going on right now. There's lots of push on the bird flu stuff. There's all sorts of things going on with chicken and eggs and everything in that realm. But they're coming after our beef they have for a long time. We know this. We've talked about it. Whether it's AOC, whether it's her friend, whoever it is, whether it's Bill Gates, you name it, we've got a problem. But the good news is we also have a solution. We have a solution, and that comes in the form of Prepper All Naturals, Prepper Beef. You can go to preparewithbeef.com and get, this is a veteran-owned company. They sell premium steaks, 25-year shelf life. So it's ribeye, New York strip, tenderloin, sirloin, you name it. They don't sell these beef crumbles. You pick your cut. You can pick a mixture of all of them. These are sous vide, freeze-dried. You buy them. They come to you. You reconstitute them when you need them, whether it's now or later. Hopefully if you're getting them just for emergency, hopefully you never need them. You just have them. But this is actually food that you want to eat, and that's the big distinction. And I tell you that every time. I tell you that for a reason. Trust me, I've eaten many an MRE. Some are better than others. All of them clog you up. But you would rather have beef, right? We all would. So do this. Give this a shot. You're going to like it. You can serve it to your family now. You can save it for emergency reserves, whatever you want to do. But just do this. Go to preparewithbeef.com. Use promo code RVM to get 25% off. Again, it's preparewithbeef.com. Use promo code RVM to get 25% off. Okay. Question of the day, responses. We've got freeze. Yes, he was pooping again, says Barb. Definite freeze is chaos. Are we talking Olympic trials this week? Chaos asks. I don't know. We haven't. Although I do want to bring up the whole pool thing. I'll maybe do that in a second because that's. I have a lot of questions with that. Tom, what are you going with? Freeze?
Oh, he's definitely frozen. His arms, I look at his arms. Whenever this comes up and people are like, oh, he froze again. And they're like, no. And other ones, like Harold and whoever else are like, he didn't freeze. Look at his hands. They're petrified. They look like blocks of stone. And they barely moved when Barry grabbed him and started leading him off stage. And Did you check out his gait as he was leaving? Barry's acting like, oh, hey, Joe, the folks love you, blah, blah, blah. Barry's sort of elasticity with his body is a great comparison on how a normal person moves, and Joe is somebody who their brain isn't functioning and they're totally stiff.
Yeah.
You know, I know when you get older, there's a lot of stiffening when you walk, and it's just part of getting older. But he is just like, it's like his knees don't bend, his arms don't bend. It's just, you know, it's like rigor mortis is set in.
Yeah.
Yeah, just watch the hands when the hands come down and they go into this petrified position right there. They don't move until Barry grabs them.
Yeah. No, I think you're right.
Barry Soetoro. There we go. It's not moving. And then let's look. You could see. You could totally see the difference.
He looks like he's in pain
the way
walking.
The person's muscle and skeletal structure is of a normal person, as opposed to somebody, you know, who's got one foot in the grave and the other on a banana peel.
Right.
It's a great.
Banana and the tail of pie. By the way, that one comes out this summer. The new Beverly Hills Cop. Anyways, let me not take us off track. I think you're right. I'll share my answer in a second. What do you think?
I think he was. I mean, if you know, in the past you've seen him when he was doing better. When he does that and he's, you know, acknowledging people in the crowd. Usually he points and he waves and whatever. So yes, he had that first wave, but then when he turned, it's like he wanted to wave.
Right.
But he's like, I'm waving at them. Waving, I'm acknowledging, I'm smiling. No, like, but nothing. Like, lights aren't on. Like, you know, there's no one home at this point. What's going on? And then that walk off. It's like, you know, it looked like you're right, Tom. It's like he's in pain walking. He's got
it's very geriatric.
Yeah, it's like he's got a PID, and it just hurts to walk. So let's have someone help him off the stage, please.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we can talk about this all we want, and we know it, and the viewers know it. Half the country knows it, but the other half of the country knows who actually is president, and they saw their president out there, and they're happy. They don't care. They would rather you just roll Joe Biden around and, you know, oh, he's the guy. He's the one we're voting for. But in private, they're like, don't worry, just keep pushing Joe. We'll change the narratives that, you know, Trump is old and decrepit, because we all know who's pulling the strings. Right. That's why you're making millions of dollars, you know, at these fundraisers. That's why you've got Jack Black, George Clooney, Pretty Woman, you know, you've got all of them there because they know that they're raising money for their leader. Right. Not for Joe.
No, exactly. I thought that same thing. You know, Jack Black had his announcement. A lot of them had their announcements that they're, you know, anti-Trump, shocker, and pro-Joe. And that was the first thought that popped into my head. It's like, look, I know that these Hollywood elites and A-list actors and actresses are not conservative. We all do. And then it's just everyone differs on whether they support them, don't support them, or watch them, but don't, you know, whatever. But it's a bridge too far to me to think that they actually do support Joe Biden. I don't think they do. I think they have comms with the Obama team and the people who are actually running things, and they feel comfortable enough to say, okay, I will do this because I like – and we know that they all adore him. Everyone on the left adores him. He's an icon to them. So you see that – and the Jack Black thing still pissed me off because I like Jack Black. But it's like, okay, that's the only way is you talk to Barry or Barry's people, and they were like, we got this, Jack. Just don't worry.
Yeah. As long as Barry's involved, I'm here.
Yeah. I think it was a freeze, too. I think almost every couple minutes there's a freeze. The only if someone had said, and no one said it in the crowd, if someone had said he stopped because he saw like a young girl in the crowd, I would have bought that as an answer.
I would have bought it as if I would have saw a photographer, but they were all behind him taking pictures. Right. They weren't in front of him taking pictures. Yeah. And then at that point, too, if you're going to smile and for a picture, have Barack come over, too, and take a photo, too, not just... We said it last week. Like his animatronic at Disney in Hall of Presidents moves and looks better than he does.
100%.
It's a great show to sit through because it's air conditioned. It's like an hour long. It's fantastic.
Anything air conditioned. I haven't been there in a long time, and obviously we're all kind of mad at Disney. But it was magical back in the day before we knew where they stood and everything. Anything air conditioned there was always the best, though. Like, can we do the Terminator ride again where we're inside, and then there's also like cool mist on the canvas? Like,
that was a great show.
All right, let's go back to let's stay with Biden. Actually, because there's this super cut out there. We all know that they're the media and Hollywood, everyone standing up for him, right? And I think it was Tom L. I don't know who actually did it. Grabian. I know who did it. It's on the freaking screen. Grabian did it. But Grabian did this super cut of people in the media standing. We might pull out of it early. We have a no pull out policy here, but let's take a look at the media standing up for him, talking about how his age and his health and all these things don't really matter, and they're on his side.
Start your tape right now, because I'm about to tell you the truth. And F you if you can't handle the truth. This version of Biden is the best Biden ever.
She knows so long as she was 9.
In fact, I think he's better than he's ever been.
President Biden has a photographic memory. His understanding and mastery of a complicated geopolitical situation is remarkable.
He is sharp, intensely probing, and detail-oriented and focused.
Jackie, are you here? Where's Jackie? I didn't think she was going to be here.
I was sitting, 2 feet from him across the table, and he was, intense.
Have trouble walking sometimes? Yeah, so did FDR. He wanted GD war.
But he's totally focused. He's very sharp.
They say he's sharp in meetings and so on.
Very lucid, very well informed. Biden is stately, and he comes with gravitas. There hasn't been, as far as I know, a single claim that Biden made a mistake.
Ageism is an issue. Americans have a rich history of holding people's physical characteristics against them. Okay, you can ask African Americans.
He's older. That doesn't mean that he is unfit, and there's a lot of ageism there.
Now, this age attack, this obsession by the right,
Joe Biden may not be able to speak for himself the way that he used to.
They want to think to take on government if we get out of line, which they're talking again about, and that's him lying around.
I think people should be speaking up for Joe Biden.
Americans and reporters in the media are just judging him by a physical appearance, and it's horribly unfair. Age is an asset.
He showed exactly how with it he is.
The flip side of this coin is that he has a tremendous amount of wisdom and experience.
Have you heard any concerns from anyone who has met with President Biden about him seeming a little slower?
No. More wild speculation from a bunch of people who have probably never been in a room with Joe Biden and certainly don't have medical degrees that I'm aware of.
You don't get paid for performance to be president. The job is not a job of endurance. I don't see Donald Trump out bike riding like Joe Biden.
It's the Hillary's email. All they have is that he's old.
He can clear a dementia bar, and that's probably a win.
The media are not fair, and they're getting less and less fair, and things are frightening. You have Wall Street Journal running a horribly sourced piece saying that Biden is unfit.
Dubious Wall Street Journal report about the president's acuity.
Shoddy story by the Wall Street Journal questioning Biden's mental fitness.
Wall Street Journal story had a lot of flaws, as you said. But Sinclair, they didn't.
So you get the point. I muted myself. But you get the point.
He's physically fit.
He's sharp, intensely probing. I mean, he's probed some stuff, that's for sure, but he's not sharp.
But you don't see Trump riding a bike like Biden.
I love it. I just love that this is what they're going with. Like, honestly, if you're one of these hacks in the media, some of them are total believers, and I get it. But some of them, they get their notes and like their instructions. Like, are you shitting me? Like we're standing up for what? We're gonna go with the whole he's healthy thing.
But before they go on air, so we're saying he's good.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yep.
I like how they try to blame the media. The media is in the tank for Joe. They always have to come up with this weird sort of, straw figure to say, oh, he's just getting a bad look from the media. And it's like, no, you guys are doing everything in your power to protect him from what the rest of us know. And so to blame the media is one of the most disingenuous things ever, since they're all in the tank for him. And for Scarborough to say, well, he's got problems walking, well, so what? So did FDR. FDR had polio.
Right. There's a distinction here.
Yes.
It's just, there was the comparison to, the Hillary. It's just, honestly, you just feel like we do every day. Like we're just in the upside down world. Everything is backwards. Like, you said that out loud. You're going to go with that? That's your final answer.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know when the last time you read 1984 was. But
I started it again during COVID. I didn't finish because it was too depressing. I don't need
everything that's happening is like, it's right out of 1984, where war is peace, good is bad. It's the exact same thing. It's like, you can't trust your lying eyes. Let us tell you how you should feel about something, because we're the smart people. We're the experts, and you guys are just the proles who just exist for our amusement.
Yeah. Yeah. Andy, by the way, going back to the other thing, said, I have a nursing degree, work geriatrics. I'd say bullshit to every one of those asshats. 100%. Let's finish on this for today, and then I got to get going. We all got to get going here. But speaking of someone who is older, not elderly, in fact, he's just downright handsome and amazing. I'm talking about the king, of course, George Strait. So George Strait, by the way, I have a little beef to pick with Team Strait, even though I love the king. And so my wife and I go to Tampa last year because it was, his final time touring, and we're doing some select stadium shows with Chris Stapleton in Little Big Town. So an amazing show. So we go to Tampa because they didn't come to Jack's. They only did some, right? And so they go down there to Raymond. And I hate that drive. If I drive to Tampa for you, then I like you. Okay, that's like asking me to move you. Like it's not happening. I have to go to Tampa? No, it's not happening. But we go down there, and then months later they're like, coming summer of 2024 to Jacksonville, George Strait, Chris Stapleton, Little Victor. Damn it. But at any rate, he's been doing some of those awesome shows this summer as well. He's at Kyle Field at Texas A&M. So any Aggies fans out there, you should be excited about this. And he sets a record for the largest, which only the king can do, right? The largest attended concert in U.S. history, 110,905 people. You can see George backstage with a sticky note when they passed it to him. Look at that handsome devil. I mean, there's no way in hell, first of all, that I'll live that long. But if I did,
you want to look like him.
You want to look like that. You want to look like that. But just show some B-roll. Can you mute this and just show some B-roll of Kyle Field? I mean, look at this scene right here. You're a star of epic proportion and a classic and a classic and classy both, like George Strait. When
it's packed,
when you can fill a massive Division I SEC football stadium to the brims. I mean, it
looks like WrestleMania.
It's bigger than WrestleMania. Yeah. I mean, it's insane. So cool. Couldn't have happened to a better artist. And you know what? He's got several more shows throughout the rest of the year, or the rest of the summer.
Challenge accepted. Let's get more.
Let's get more. I know he finishes in Vegas at the Raider Stadium and Allegiant Stadium, but really cool. Happy for George. The dude's a stud. His tequila's awesome too, by the way. Check it out. Codigo. Good stuff. Tom, they have a rosé tequila.
Ooh.
Oh, delicious.
It is delicious.
Well, it'll be nice for like frosé margaritas.
Frosé. Yeah. Frosé rosé. You know what they say.
I feel like if you're going to drink that, you have to have like a velvet like jacket on, but no shirt on underneath while you're drinking it.
I think we can arrange that. Yeah.
A shorty bathrobe with a Speedo with kind of the belt sort of like very loose.
I can't unsee that in my head now.
That's what we're going to end on today, folks. It's been amazing. Thanks to our friend Jonathan Rose for joining us. We've got Dr. Ram, who you guys love, who's coming back on Wednesday. Looking forward to that later in the week. Plenty of news stories. I already have several things I want to touch on tomorrow, some things we didn't get to today as well. So that's all coming up. We hope you have a great rest of your Monday. We'll see you tomorrow right back here, 3 p.m. Eastern. Please hit that like button on the way out. Be safe, be smart, be free.
Mike Lindell here, and like you, I see our country being destroyed daily. We face massive economic issues, and I can tell you from firsthand experience, there are people in power who threaten the values that have made our country great. Well, I've been a believer in gold and silver for a long time, and I've searched for years for a partner that shares my values. Well, Genesis Gold Group showed me how easy it is to protect your IRA, 401k, or your retirement with gold and silver. Their faith-driven approach to service and stewardship is one that stands out from the rest.
To get your free definitive gold guide and get started learning more about investing in gold and protecting your retirement from uncertain times, visit treasureandtrust.com now. Fill out the basic contact form and a member of the team will be in touch. Again, that's treasureandtrust.com or call 855-625-7760.